before he ever became famous. And so I have a shit ton of LeBron stuff that one day hopefully we'll make. Yep, there it goes. I saw that going on the Periscope. You gonna tell me when I can go?
Get ready for the battle no ropes can hold. No ring. No referee. No rules.
Gentlemen, it's time.
No holds barred.
Welcome, everybody, to a very special episode number 2 of No Holds Bar with myself and my partner, Mr. Fienberg. We won him over, everybody, so he's now signed on to do this thing with me as long as you guys keep following us and give us likes and ratings and reviews and all that good stuff. Took a little break. We are going to try to get on a normal schedule if this thing kind of takes off and everybody enjoys it. Haven't decided yet if it'll be bi-weekly or whatnot, but this is kind of pretty good timing with Kentucky Derby, Tiger Talk. The NFL draft just happened. Big things in wrestling going on all around the industry, not just WWE. The future of golf, we'll get into that. Some things we have noted, and then we're 2 weeks away from the PGA Championship. So to not merge in with like we did with the Masters and kind of get covered up, we decided to go a little early, kick things off and get a little preview of that and where we're at, what we got bets on. But first, let me introduce the man. Our boy Hump calls it with the greatest head of lettuce in the industry. Mr. Fienberg, how you doing tonight?
What's going on, Gup? I'm doing well. Nice. Starting to get warmer up in these parts. So soon enough, I'll be playing some golf myself, but all is good.
I don't know how you do it. I couldn't. I tell JB that he's on the board back.
Wouldn't know any other way.
I guess that's true. Oklahoma had some cold winters, but now where I'm at, spring lasted about 30 hours and moved right on into summer, and we've already hit the 90s a couple times, and tornadoes and hail and rain and all that kind of stuff right now. But get to play golf a little bit more down here for sure. But I know it's gorgeous up there. I was up there on some business stuff a few years ago, and definitely want to get up there sometime to play some golf. So we're going to kick it off with. Probably you can't go anywhere else. We've heard about it a lot, but we're going to talk a little bit about Tiger and the recap of Masters, but kind of more so on what I thought was a little unusual, taking I assume he's not going to play in the Byron Nelson, so virtually going major to major. First, how was Sunday at Augusta for you, Jeff? Overall, Tiger, the event, the leaderboard, the craziness on the back nine. What stands out to you, almost a month later about that week?
For starters, I, like many, over the course of the last month, have just, whether it's been, at work or just, like walking outside, literally been stopped in my tracks, remembering that Tiger won. Yet, not crazy, because we all thought it would happen, but crazy that it actually did happen. And just the other day, I caught myself rewatching the back nine. Well, sorry, I went to the ninth green and started there because that was where he had that insane, insane, and the insane two putt. There are many things that I noticed. I'll just talk about rewatching it quickly. After Molinari puts it in the water, as they're all walking to the green, they pan out, and Tiger is just twirling the putter. You could there is a hop, skip, and a jump in his step. And I don't know, from that moment on. And then obviously, he gets right to Molinari. He gets the lead. He almost has the hole in one. The drive on 17 was his clutchest shot, maybe out of all of them. And then rewatching the ending. I don't know. It gave me all the feels again. Like when I was a little boy and I would stay home from school and I would like rewatch the Jays like 93 World Series videos. Like seeing Timlin pick up that bunt from Otis Nixon and fire it to Joe Carter at first base. We're seeing the highlight of Joe Carter hit that homer. We're seeing the highlight of, the Chargers knocking down that fourth down Neil O'Donnell pass to send them to the Super Bowl. Like, it's a feeling. You guys know the feeling, but I can't, like, put it into words, Like, or for a hockey fan, like, when you see your team, like, scores in overtime, like, that first 3 seconds of, of rush, it's as good as it gets. So I got all the feels again watching it. It's still, I haven't bought a Sports Illustrated in, like, forever. But I bought 2 copies just because the picture was so clean, and not that I think it'll be worth anything, but yeah, I don't know. I'm still I'm still kind of speechless about it. I guess that would just prove. I wonder what the Chargers winning the Super Bowl would feel like, because that might be the closest. Because the other things I have, those great moments that I referred to before, when they happened in my life, I was like an 8, 9-year-old boy. Chargers lost to the 49ers in that Super Bowl by it was the spread was like 21 points. So the game was essentially what the spread was. I was like an 8 or 9-year-old boy, and I didn't even care. I just said to my dad, like, "Oh, we'll be back next year." Like, I don't know, they've never been back, but you're that young, you're that naive. Didn't even I was just having fun. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's still a month later, forgetting the hyperbole of the moment, it's still one of the greatest sporting things I've ever was alive to watch. And that's me personally. Everyone can have their own things. That didn't involve a team. Because if your own team wins a big game or a championship, that's probably big. But yeah, that's where I am, Gup. It still stops me in my tracks.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I've had I was like you, and the Cowboys were peaking, was my mid-childhood, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 type-ish. So, I mean, I watched all 3 of those Super Bowls. I know them. I definitely probably know more of the 2000 OU football season. I can name – I was a senior in high school there. I watched OU since I was a baby. Dallas just happened to fall. Dallas was kind of like default because you live in Oklahoma. There's no pro team, so you either kind of go Kansas City or Dallas. And I just defaulted to Dallas. And when I started watching them, they were the only reason why is really Troy Aikman, right? The OU tie. He's born in Henrietta. When he got drafted there, I was started watching it with my grandpa and stuff. But the OU season, many moments. Was at many games. Was at the Big 12 championship. The Texas A&M game, many highlights like you talk about that you can remember just like it was yesterday. For me, being somewhat newer to golf, watching round by round and shot by shot, only for the last 10 years, it definitely was without a doubt the greatest moment. I watched Tiger in his prime, but I wasn't engaged in the game where I am now. I play it a lot. I love it. My kids are going to start getting out. They do now. My 5-year-old was on my lap when he won, which was, you couldn't hold back. Most people couldn't either, but to have him watch it, I don't know if he'll remember it. It'll probably be a phase, but if he grows into loving the game, I hope it's something, that moment we had, and someday I'll get to talk to him about the backdrop of, for him, it was just, one of Daddy's favorite golfers won it.
There'll be a movie.
Yeah, he won't know.
Yeah, it'll just be like a Hollywood major motion picture.
I was big on Jordan and the Bulls. That was probably just the easy thing to do. I had one of my friends who was a huge Houston Rockets fan, so it was kind of nice to go back and forth there. But everybody loved Jordan. He's an icon, like Tiger. So I really thought I had saw the best Tiger moment I was going to see last year at the the Tour Championship. when he's walking up with Rory and that crowd. And I mean, I cried then. I mean, I had tears then just because
exactly.
We still never knew if he was going to win. And you and Mayo were in the same group as very few, as us, talking about Tiger back.
Yeah, and I would argue, like, Pat and I, like, to interrupt quickly, we like said it as more of like, I will acknowledge parts of us probably doubted it, but
Sure.
you say that to like willing it into existence.
Sure.
Like I'm not like, because I'm sure there were times you could have made a great bet, like would Tiger ever win a major again? Like he could have really maybe taken advantage of somebody or even a buddy, like or your like a family member.
Sure.
Like could have like cashed in on, because it's not like I was something. But we just, I don't know. I joke with Pat, but every time like an older guy won on tour, I was like, I don't know, that's got to be like Tiger might be crippled in bed, but how that doesn't give him confidence, like, I don't know how it doesn't. But you're not wrong. It almost felt like, how do you put it? Like the PGA Championship, the Tour Championship last year. Like if that was peak and we were just going to chase the all-time wins record without like getting a major in there, that almost felt like it would be good enough. And even this year, like how he played early, he didn't play poorly, but this year he had there were expectations. Last year there was sort of like this wonderment what was going to happen, and by the Florida swing, I think we all sort of realized like, okay, like he's gonna win. Like there's really, if he wants to play like a normal player, like not an elite player schedule, there's sort of no doubt he was going to win, and he ended up winning, an elite 30-man field. It did. The funny thing is, before the Masters this year, Gup, I don't think he put like 3 days together.
No,
all year. Like there were great moments, there were great
Sure.
stretches of holes, and you could tell me he played 3 days of match play, but that was match play. Like you saw him like be kind of crappy, but he'd have these great 4, 5, 6 hole stretches where he like dominated Cantley. I want to say who else was in this pod. Snedeker. He might have lost maybe even his first match, or he might have lost to Snedeker. It was Wise, Snedeker, and Cantley. So he, and then he went on and he won an early match, and we got to see him play Rory. But yeah, there wasn't like I don't know, but it all just freaking happened. And part of the coolest thing about it, I know I keep rambling, is that it was so different from his other wins, and he took that course and he won like a methodical Masters. It wasn't like this vintage dominating Tiger. It was just this like methodical, it was just he methodically played his way around the course. He methodically played his second shots a lot of the times from bad positions that he ended up, making great things happen out of. The boat showed up at Bethpage at least, right? But I'm in wonderment of how it's going to go. I fear for the bookies because there's about to be a tsunami of Tiger money.
Yeah. So, I definitely think hindsight probably, I don't know if it's next year when we're rehashing, if it's later this year, if he goes on to win more, that I think a lot of people forget, especially the very, very casual Tiger golf fan, not real golf fan. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Tiger brings a lot to the game. You saw Harold Varner's conference this week, and he attributed it to that. And Rory has, and all the guys have. But I think for us, when you go back, I think a lot of people don't realize how damn good the leaderboard. Like he didn't win versus like a PGA championship at Southern Hills, and he's putting against,
Bob May.
Right. And so hindsight, it's Ricky's making it around, Brooks, DJ, all these guys had chances on that back nine and literally finished the shot behind. That I think it gives him confidence moving forward because he goes, I just took that. Now the hindsight or the start of that is no one probably knows that course better than him right now on tour. So it's a very comforting place. But as we'll talk about right now, the courses he's about to play, the next two for majors, he's very confident there as well. But what do you think about him two questions. What do you think about him not playing, assuming he's not playing the Byron Nelson, which if he is, I'll be up there now, but I doubt it. And
not gonna play.
yeah, and then do you think he had that plan whether he won the Masters or not? Or was that an alteration after he won? What do you think about that whole thing?
Yeah, I think in a perfect world, his plan was probably to be at Wells Fargo. But after he won the Masters, he almost acknowledged, like, he literally just was like dad for 10 days. He did the one, obligations with the Golf TV people that most of us enjoyed. I really liked it. But yeah, I think it just, on a whirlwind of things, it just sort of changed the schedule. And there's fatigue, but I would argue it shows he's, like, also pretty confident in everything that can happen again. He must really trust what he's doing or what's going on in his backyard or what's going on, when he rocks out, plays 9 with Noda and Jupiter or something.
I agree. I think the same thing. I think he's obviously the elite talent we know. He knows he can win. I assume he's been up there at least already. If not, he's going early, which I assume that's why he took Wells Fargo, as he said, forget it. I just won the Masters. I'd rather go up and spend the weekend of the Wells Fargo with around the course, doing what he does, fly back home, do his routine, then head back for the championship instead of messing around with playing Wells. Because don't forget, he's not playing right now to win tournaments. He'll get the record, the win record. He's everything he does, and he said it, everything he does in his steps is for the majors.
Do you want to know? Yeah, I completely forgot. I actually didn't even remember till after me and Pat recorded this week, and the Masters was a month ago. Me and Pat have a pretty big bet on total wins this year, Spieth versus Tiger, and I completely forgot about it. And then after we made it, I was like, I wouldn't change this bet for the world, but I'm really worried. Spieth is going to be playing so many jobber events, and Tiger is literally, you could tell. Even before he won this year, he was playing his fucking elite schedule.
Absolutely.
He's got back. It was pretty much WGCs, majors, and he played Torrey. And
places he likes.
Yeah, and what's he going to play? Even just projecting the year. Just for sure events. I'm sure he's going to play Memorial at Jack's place. He's going to fucking play. Help me here, Gup. Where else is he playing this summer?
I don't know if he'll do anything prepping up for the British. I don't think you can. Not many know about that course. So after the U.S. Open, his schedule will be interesting because I think he'll want to stay in some kind of competitive. But hell, we don't know. Things will change with how if he wins number 2, if he wins Bethpage, Bucks will, it's Katie bar the door. He'll do whatever he wants to do, right? No one's going to.
He's already doing whatever he wants to do,
right?
I would argue at this point, outside of Memorial. I'm trying to think if he has sponsor ones.
I don't think so. That was his only. He'll do the
WGCs and majors. That almost, if you add all those up and throw the Memorial in there, you're almost going to be at his full number.
Well, I think he'll play the new. Well, I assume he'll play the new WGC in what's it, Memphis? Where the Memphis tournament used to be. Yeah. Now it's, so maybe not, but he loves WGC, so he'll play that shit. We saw a match play. People didn't think he would do it. I'm pulling up the schedule. You got, obviously, he play PGA. He's not going to play Charles Schwab. He'll play the Memorial. Then it's RBC Canada. He's not going to play that. He'll play the U.S. Open after that. Not going to play Travelers. Not going to play Rocket. Not going to play 3M.
That Rocket's in Detroit, right? That's a new one?
Yeah, that's a new one, yeah. He may, but I doubt it. I don't know what he'll play between. So between the Open and between U.S. Open and the British Open, you got Travelers, the new one, 3M, which is up in Minnesota, John Deere, and Barbasol. I don't know what
it's John Deere, and there's no way he's playing that.
Right.
He'll be over there just playing.
And then what's weird, and we talked about this, I know you guys did as well, that right after the Open, the next week is the WGC in St. Jude. So I assume he'll play that, but it probably depends on what he does at the Open, whether he gives a shit about the WGC at that point. So I know your answer. You already said it. Obviously, instead of saying, would you bet him, you being a bettor like me, that you can't touch that number. You may try to double it with something, but do you think he's more likely to win the U.S. Open or the PGA Championship right now at where they're at?
PGA Championship, isn't it? I don't know. Even without playing, that if he survives Thursday, to me, it's all like in play. Because once he gets to the weekend, holy shit! Like he would always be the man to beat. But if he could survive Thursday, we'll see. And I've said it a few times, like going into not just like this year at the Masters, or even like before Saturday's round at the Masters, it was like I'm very confident Tiger will be fine. But my greatest fear was always we would get to these moments, and someone likes a Brooks, like a DJ. Ricky would almost make me happy enough. Although now that Tiger's I always even said, as much as I love Ricky, once Tiger returned, Tiger getting that at least one major was more important to me than Ricky getting any. Sure. Now that Tiger's gone, and now that that's out of the way, come on, Ricky, for everybody. But I was always worried that this current Tiger in its current incarnation, my fear was always that his best might not be good enough if a Dustin or a Brooks Rory, if they decide that like it's theirs, if they play their A game, you worry. But I don't know. Sundays at majors, they've proven. We saw, at the British last year. As much as there was hype for the PGA Championship, I think anybody that actually was betting it knew that Tiger wasn't as ever close as they made you believe. Because Brooks had all those par fives and the easy par fours left when Tiger was one back.
Correct. Yeah, 100%. And if Bethpage was a U.S. Open this year, I would say it'd be Torrey at the U.S. I mean, if it was flip flopped, because Bethpage set up like a U.S. Open track is brutal. We've seen that. Rory, his presser this week, he kind of alluded to, he's not going to go up to Bethpage at all. It's going to, PGA setting it up. It's going to be a lot easier than what it would as a U.S. So I agree to that, part of it. But I mean, there's probably no better track record at one single course than what Tiger's done at Torrey, at Torrey. So that part of it says I would lean towards he's got a better chance than probably anybody, obviously, to win both of them.
Are you talking about Torrey 2021? What are we talking about?
Oh, I'm sorry, Pebble.
Because I'm wearing my Torrey 2021 U.S. Open visor.
Yeah. Pebble, sorry. Yeah, at Pebble. Yeah. So I mean, he has a great track record at Pebble, and so I could see him being, he's going to be the favorite probably at both, unless something crazy happens. But
he's the favorite for sure.
Yeah, as of now. I mean, if something goes crazy,
if Rory won this week, just like he did, right? He won the Players right before the Masters. Maybe he could get some steam again. But it would be Rory or Dustin would be the only players I think that could pass him. And Dustin's not. We're not going to see Dustin again.
No. I think Rory's the only one that could at this point.
Rory win this week could probably set up for that to happen. But as somebody that could be considering a nice hefty DJ play, maybe seeing Rory even 1.5 if Dustin's going to move back wouldn't be the worst. But
I'd love to see a DJ at, give me a 12 or 13 that I haven't seen in forever.
Because he's still, we'll see what happens.
Still one of the top in the world. What do you think about? We can go quickly on this, but the obviously Tiger influence and all that. But when I say future of golf, our industries and what we do, and Mayo, the media, fantasy, betting, all that's in the next 3 years it's gonna a booming part with the announcement from the Masters and the whole Master app and how amazing it was. And I know people beat up the PGA, and I get it. What people don't realize, and I know Mayo does because I've talked to them on the side, is that the money that would go in to have that technology and cameras and stuff at all the tour stops is almost undoable at this point.
The Masters investing in itself, not the PGA Tour.
Right? 100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
they made investments in itself, and they have the foresight to see kind of what is happening, and they're obviously a cash cow, and I think IBM built them something real special. But yeah, they're investing in themselves. That's what happened there. Really isn't feasible yet, week to week on the PGA Tour. Yeah. Now, certain courses maybe could decide we want to invest in ourselves Like just an example, I'm just trying, any court like where they're every year.
Every year, exactly.
Memorial could be like, we just signed a 15-year contract to be here, and with that, we're making these sort of technological advancements around that, so we can do special things because we see the future. But it is so. It's not feasible at this.
Now, does that mean the PGA? Does it mean the PGA can't up their current app? No, their current app is. Move aside from the Masters, it's not a fair comparison. It still is lacking. Not only that, but for fuck's sakes, here again tonight. I'm at the gym working out, and I got a big sweat on Bucket Hat, our boy Daman, and it cuts off at 5. So for the last hour, I have to fucking keep refreshing an app to figure out if he's going to close first round leader. And tomorrow we'll be in the same place with cut sweat. So that stuff is the stuff I hope they improve on when they go to a PGA network or whatever we're going to do with this new media rights. Is if there is live golf on, we should be able to see it, whether it's by app. It can still be a broadcast type deal, not the every shot, everything like the Masters had, but that has to improve. It is. I go back to, it'd be like, there's 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter on Sunday. The Chargers are playing the Rams, and 6 o'clock hits, and they go, okay, we're going to 60 minutes. Hope you can follow on the app. Are you fucking kidding me? It'd be an outroar. And that's what it's like here with golf.
But even if that happened like with golf, like tomorrow's Friday, even if you just couldn't see the last 8 minutes of the second quarter.
Oh, yeah. People would lose their shit.
Yeah, or 4 minutes of the second quarter, like anything. So, I don't know. You think about it, a lot. You wonder why they haven't made the improvements maybe necessary in that. You would think they have to be sort of figuring out what sort of price point could it be to be able to make this happen, and what sort of price point would be out there to accommodate these people. But in the end, they are still, that 55 and over demo doesn't. I don't know. I go both ways because I see it like us, and then I always revert back to thinking like my dad, who, if it's yesterday's, if it's a rain delay they're showing last year's, he's gotten out of bed. He's got no lineups. He doesn't give a shit. He just is watching the best players in the world golf, and he doesn't it doesn't matter. And as silly as that is, it's just the reality of it when there's a shortened Sunday or they're out at 7 a.m. and they're done, and then CBS is showing it in the afternoon. He doesn't have a clue unless I tell him or he asks me.
Right.
He does not have it, or does he care that this happened? So I don't know, but it's all getting better. The Masters app is obviously a barometer now by which everything is going to be compared to, and maybe that's we would agree that's probably really unfair.
Yeah,
but we'll see. What are you expecting from? I mean, if you're the app developer of the PGA Championship app, you had to have been like, oh fuck.
Well, and it's even hard because they like you said, the thing the Masters has is it stays there forever, right? It's going to be there. We'll be dead and it's still be playing the Masters at Augusta. But the only thing, I agree with you 100% on your dad deal. The thing that'll change that, and there's a lot of whispers and talks in the background and people contacting people, is betting. So as betting as betting spreads in the U.S. like the UK has, you'll start to have to adapt, and these sports will, no different than soccer. Soccer overseas, if they took that shit off, people would die. They would get their fucking head cut off overseas if they took their live soccer off at 3 a.m. or some shit. Here, they're going to have to do that because more and more people have access to legalized betting, and then it'll gain more. Because whether we like it or not, betting will always dominate fantasy sports because the hardcores can do fantasy. A guy that just wants to put, hey, I'm going to watch this, so I'm going to make a bet on it. I don't do any research. I just, it's a 50-50, coin flip, minus 110, whatever. Betting's easier to track people than it is fantasy because there's an edge in the fantasy, and fantasies verse each other. So everybody kind of still keeps a little bit, where betting is us against the books.
You're not wrong. And I will say, any time that I know that there's been a delay, whether because of weather, and they're up against weird coverage windows, I was just, you got to hope Tiger's still on the course, or Tiger's in the lead, because they'll never abandon when that happens. But I mean, listen, we all envision the day where you are going to be able to scroll with your remote on your smart TV and pick a hole, and you'll have like 2 or 3 cameras of that hole, or you'll even be able to pick a group, and you'll just be like, there's no doubt that is sooner than later. Just doesn't seem like it's here fast enough. And with the money that most you see these people put into contests every week, you'd certainly pay a small subscription rate. I mean, relative, it's all pretty small to actually be able to see what you are sweating.
Sure,
But,
yeah. I mean,
sweats are painful. Seeing the buddy miss the 4-foot putt on Stat Tracker, seeing it in real time, will hurt just as much.
So, do you have any, as far as the PGA preview, do you have any bets locked in yet? If you don't, or if you do, is there any guys on your short list? I know we're still, 10 days out from having our second major week, but didn't know if anybody's trimming up your list yet or not.
I have one bet. It's been pretty standard for me this year, except this week at Wells Fargo, and that is Hideki. Anytime they pushed him over 33, 35, I'm lucky enough. This one's actually a 43-1. There were some deeper ones, like early in the year. He was like, I think some people pulled like 60s on him when he was like a real forgotten guy before we sort of saw some life again out of him. I don't know. I just hope it can click. He plays really tough courses well. He could survive the early rounds. His weekend scoring, as you joked with me, he's like an auto showdown player on weekends. You almost don't care how bad his stats were. It just seems to be his thing. And every big tournament this year where I've had a nice Hideki ticket, by Friday night, he makes the cut. I'm like swearing him off. I don't want a piece of him again. And he goes on these great weekend runs and plays fantastic golf, like he did it at the Masters, like he did at the Players, and he sucks me back in again. So I am in on Hideki. Pat has me looking at Fleetwood closely. So as of right now, I guess it's my usual group of losers that I'm looking at, because I like betting both those two guys a lot. The biggest number I've seen on Fleetwood is 32. Anytime he crosses over 30, doesn't entice me. But I can say it. The timing switch already works. I'm pumped up. Maybe it's because Tiger's off a major, but I'm pumped up. And I think the trade in position is good, because I'll always be fired up for the British Open. Like, I'll never not be. But there have been times where I, like, joke doing the preview shows, and I'm not really into the PGA. And then, like, it starts on Thursday, and it's like, I love it. Or, when they had that Ric Flair intro 2 years ago at Quail Hollow Gup, I was like, this might as well be the Masters. It's now the greatest golf tournament ever.
I hope it moving earlier in the year helps it, because definitely by the time you get to where it has been the last few years, it definitely loses its luster, especially with the casual fan, because I, like you, my second favorite major is the British by far. I enjoy it. It's a change. We wake up at 1 a.m. my time and you watch it, and it's unique. It's always a challenge. I enjoy it, but PGA gets lost in the shuffle. It was the first major I ever went to when it was at Southern Hills in Tulsa, and Tiger won it, but I can definitely understand that. I have one bet. I bet Rahm on your birthday. I just found out December 20th. He was on my.
Is it Rahm that you said?
I'm not sorry. I was looking at Rahm just now.
I like Rahm though. Again, I was going to say Rahm is another guy. I've seen him at 2022. Seems like the standard number for Rahm. I'm convinced that his bubble will it will be his time in a premier event. I have no doubts about that. So I don't mind back in here. Even in full field, anytime he's pushing 20 to me, I'm almost ready to move in on Rahm. But yes, because I like Rahm a lot, and I seem to back him at majors a lot. That's what was part of in my head, making that joke of my typical group of losers will make my PGA.
Yeah, I was very high on Rahm at the Masters. Rahm and Tiger were my 1A, 1B. I bet Tiger in a personal bet, but I had Finau at 35-1. looking deep. The problem with going with a guy like Ron, which I do love him at 20-1 right now, is it really I think your style is a lot like mine. It really shortens your card if you go that low. I mean, you can't spread out as much as you normally would, or you get overexposed in a sense.
Yeah.
I like Cantley. I like Cantley. I like his game. I don't know if he's better at a PGA or the U.S. Open this year, but he's 50 right now. I can get behind that.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I bet him at 6. I bet Cantley at 66 to win the Masters. He was like my one and done. He was like the one guy. If you want someone like, at that point, 66 one's almost like a long shot. I don't have any
absolutely
100-1 magic. If you're asking me like to win a big one, like a 2 years ago.
Kuchar, Kuchar got a chance for you at being a easier quote unquote Bethpage?
I don't know. Probably not. See, I'm dumb enough that I would like just rather Cantley than Kuchar.
I would too. I mean, I definitely think he's, Kuchar's fire, right? He's been playing great, but I would take, if you give me the same odds at that course, I would take him. Don't mind your Fleetwood number at 28. I can still get Hideki at 40. That may be a bet by the time the show ends is Hideki at 40.
Listen, Hideki statistically resembles that Hideki of prominence of a couple years ago, where it mattered. I mean, he still struggles making the important putts. And the other part about betting Hideki, which I always remind myself after I bet him, but it doesn't stop me, is he feels a pressure that I don't think we truly respect as the North American golf fan. That Ichiro type media that followed him, they follow him. He feels it. The story of him, the stories of the reports that he was seen breaking down, bawling after, I wouldn't say gagged the PGA away. Justin just was sort of unbeatable. Hideki made more bogeys than he should have. It's all a bit of a blur, but I don't remember that night ending and being Hideki lost it.
I mean, when you watch him at a tournament, it's amazing the amount of Japanese people that are over here at I assume it's every single tournament, because everyone I've been to he has a massive media following over here. So I agree. That's a great point. Probably not talked about enough. And
maybe Fowler seems to be shaking off the pressure. I don't know that Hideki shakes it off as well.
Which may be why he starts shaky, right? He gets nervous, and then once he settles down, he just goes out and balls out. I mean, if he's leading a tournament at the first round, he's a guy that can run away. I mean, he can not run away, but he can win going away very easily if he's comfortable in striking it. He just, he does have that nervous tick for sure.
But yeah, so statistically, the statistics that would make you want to bet Hideki resemble those statistics where he was in his great form of a couple years ago. Obviously, he has to putt well, but it's like an Adam Scott situation. You're not even asking for a T15 putting performance. You just want T30, and with his consistency, you feel like he'll get you to Sunday. So yeah, I don't know. That's me again. Hideki money pit. I don't mind. I mean, I know you made the Finau play early. I don't mind it. I think going into the year, that this would probably be the major I think is probably best for him. I'm gonna just automatically cancel off the British just because by process of elimination, he played so well at the Masters last year, so I could and he was there this year. I mean, Pebble does suit his game because he could be so. I don't know. He's got such a complete game, man. When he's on, he can almost work any track. But I don't mind it. I could be talked into it. But me betting Finau would almost just be me wanting to be there for that breakout. I don't know.
I definitely thought I just had him plugged to win a major this year, and so it was more process of elimination. And I was going to choose Tiger or him for Bethpage and Pebble. I just didn't know which order. And so for the preview show that we did back then in December or whatever, I chose Tiger for Pebble and put Finau here. He's got the game to do it. After seeing him on, Faraday, I gained even more respect for his background, and he's just a humble guy that I enjoy watching and rooting for. He frustrates you at times. but finished strong today. I mean, 3 birdies on the last 4 to get it back. Now he's in the line.
I got him this week. I felt dumb early. I saw the closing score. I feel better about it. And I like in the nice guys poll that Golf Digest, like the player poll, he's always like second, I think, or maybe he's first now. In the last one I saw. So yeah, I think everyone loves him. Everybody, roots for him. I'm not surprised it all slipped away from him. At the Masters a bit, but he's gonna get his.
So, are you moving off the golf for a sec? Are you at all a racing fan? Once a year Derby? Any kind of background there up in Canada, or is it not even a thing there?
Oh, my background was producing for Cam at a radio station here from 2008 to 2010, 11, 12. Here doing a drive time show, producing for Cammy. And we had 2 big screens in the office, and one of them had the tracks, and the other one had like the tote boards. It was like a pay channel, and he had got convinced the boss, like, just keep Cammy in a good mood. And nothing, Cammy hits a trifecta, it's pizza for lunch, and for everybody. And I was like, the Cam, like, you just lost like 5 days in a row. You don't need to like go on a win and buy everyone your lunch. Because I know what you're like, you're losing. But so yeah, I don't know. Going into like the OTBs, they would call them here. You just go make some horse bets, and those were places you didn't want to spend too much time in. There is a track here, Woodbine. It's probably about 40 minutes from me that people do like. It makes the circuit if you're a standard horse guy. Everyone would know Woodbine. They probably bet a few races there. But I know. Okay, so long story short, I'm like the guy that watches the couple races
a year. Yeah, growing up.
That's it. I'm so I don't. Yeah, that's me. But I like it. It's fun.
Growing up in Oklahoma, the advantage. I mean, it was one of the things I got to do because of the Indian casinos, right? That now are racinos, because now they have betting, they have gambling, but they also have. So Remington Park is a big one. It's on any circuit. So I was into the racing, knew it, watched it a lot. Always have that old guy that kind of teaches you how to bet, pari-mutuels, how that works, exotics, exactas, trifectas, wheeling it, the key, all that kind of stuff. So I learned how to do it all. Went off to college, kind of obviously couldn't stay engaged with it. Got back, and kind of slowly as life evolved, all that, I became more the majors only kind of guy, but I would still watch it every once in a while. I'd say probably the last 3 years I picked it back up. I keep up with it enough. I met OG John, who's a part of our deal. And if you don't know the Cam that Jeff's talking about, he was on with Mayo this week, so go check that pod out. It was a great entertainment / he's very knowledgeable in the horse industry. So check that one out. And our boy Wiley had a great one last night.
One more comedy. Cam and Pat and Tim, far more comedy. Tim, far more info. Or Wiley, I should say.
Yeah, definitely. Wiley's pod was very. I listened to it at the gym today, actually, and it was. I started this morning and got busy and finished it. Very informative. And then OG John, who most people know, he's been in the gambling industry for 30 years now, and he's on our team. Was lived in Vegas last 20 years or so, and then moved out to Charlotte, and then now he's in Jupiter will be his retirement spot. Jeff knows him well. This dude,
good times.
Yeah, the name OG I gave him. I called him. I mean, the dude is as old school as you can think. Notebooks, writing down, has notes of every golf tournament, every football scenario, every call. I mean, you ask him anything, and he'll be like, hold on, I got to get my notebook. I got that. He just knows the shit, right? And so, but he loves horses. His dad, who is the OG, couldn't be a nicer guy. A lot of respect for Pops, and taught him. Brought him into that, and they, Pops still goes. Pops like 90, and he takes the old transit he goes and watches horse races, dog races. Even when we were there for the Honda, it was Saturday morning. Boy, Pops, he got the paper. He's reading the paper. Boom, off to the track, and it just mad respect for that. But OG knows way more about horse racing than me, and so he's taken over the racing articles and previews. He put his first preview out. It means something to get you in there, obviously, until the track settings and it looks like it's gonna be a little sloppy. He'll do final thoughts, a little pun off of mine tomorrow night, late tomorrow night, because things can change on a dime. We saw, the favorite, scratched yesterday, or maybe even this morning. Last night, Omaha, and so that changes the whole deal. You got so many big odds that'll come into play now. That
can I just ask, because you see, like with a lot of these like standard books, you can. Yes, with horse racing, you sort of get the offline, right, or the line, the post line.
Yeah,
it's different if you bet it like specifically, or at the tracks and what have you. But a lot of these sports books, you like lock in a number.
Correct. Yeah, we had this talk in the chat today, the Slack, because the guys that are overseas, they don't even know about that, because they have like what you're talking about. You get the post line whenever it goes off, that's what you get, whether you bet it today or whatever. But a lot of these offshore and locals will let you bet it kind of like a golf bet, where you just go in there, you're picking 2 in, whatever number you lock in there. If there's 20-1, you get it then. It's not a parimutuel. It's separate of that.
Yeah. I see that. So I don't know enough to make a play, but maybe there's you think the guy's number's gonna move or what have you. But I noticed that in a lot of the books where most of us play the golf, you're betting it like you said. You make your bet. When you make your bet, that's what the number you have. And whatever, the guy can get crushed at the counter on Saturday, midday, has no bearing on your wager.
No, it does not. And the difference is what they call a parimutuel. And so anybody that's in the parimutuel across the whole country or whatever, those odds have to be almost, if you go to any sports book online or whatever, you'll notice the horse book is always separate from the sports book. And that's because of the parimutuel system. And those bets are like you're talking about live. So if you bet it today, it doesn't matter. If you bet it tomorrow, it does. But there's also in the sports book, they'll have matchups, if you will, and they'll have odd wins. So if you jumped on a couple guys early when that news broke on some of these, offshore and locals, that's a good, and that's how I got brought up in the Slack. Some of these guys are like, "Can I bet this and it won't move?" And I said, "Yes, if it's in the sports book, but if it's in the horse racing book, it's a parimutuel and it's going to move it." And so yes, that's a good point. I've talked to John a little bit. I did my first set of research last night. I still handicap it, and I'll put out a little something, but I'm going to lean on John this year. He's watched literally every single race of the year leading up to this. I personally think it's going to be a big exotic. It's been a while since we've had it. We've had some super horses that have won. They bring down the odds. And when I say exotics, I probably should explain that for some people is your exactas or your trifectas or your super. So you're picking an exacta, you're picking a 1-2 finish, try 1, 2, 3, super 1, 2, 3, 4. You can box them, and in a sense, it's kind of, if you want to go golf ways, it's kind of like an each way. So if you pick 3 horses in an exacta box, as long as 2 of those 3 finish 1, 2 in any order, you win the bet. Now, the difference is it costs you more, right? So you multiply how many ever scenarios that is in a 3-man exacta box, or you can do a 5-horse exacta box, but it could cost you out the ass. But if you hit the right combo, it's worth it. Same with the try box. So you're looking for 1, 2, 3, but you can put as many horses in there, and no matter if you have 6 horses in a try box, as long as 3 of those 6 finish 1, 2, 3 in any order, you win it. But you're basically, quadrupling your bets on all that. So it gets hairy. If you don't know it, definitely reach out to us. We can walk you through it. We can, any of those kind of scenarios. I'll post mine. There's wheeling. You can go days for horse betting. Luckily, that's how I grew up, and I was at a track, so that's how I learned. I was at a real track learning to bet, and so definitely different world. And if you're casual, take some luck and just throw it in there and have fun. It's something to do, right? If you're watching all of it, but Omaha went out. Obviously, I think everybody liked him. I'm currently leaning on Game Winner's one of the guys I like. Improbable, I think, is going to go off as a leader now, and I don't know if I'm going to go there. I really think we're going to get a mid to longer shot to get in there and win it, or at least finish second to get the exotics way up there. I know OG likes Tax. Doesn't seem to be talked up a lot, so I like Tax. Possibly in my try, even my super for sure. Code of Honor is a guy that last night caught my eye. I like him. I know Pat loves win-win-win. That's almost an auto bet after listening to the podcast. Some long shots. Cutting humor was one that I liked, but I don't know if he can close well enough to finish it. Other than that, the hard thing about this race, and any expert that you listen to would tell you, is 20, now 19 horses is very difficult. And if you get sloppy conditions in there or wet, where the lead horses get out and they're kicking up in the chase, eyes and all that kind of stuff, the mud, it's a totally different ball game. It's literally like throwing darts at times. And so I'll lean to go a little bit more opened up betting, smaller amounts, and just hope, I'd sneak a long shot into that top three and make a big bet. But I'm like you, I don't watch it near like I used to, especially with Gup's Corner and the amount of time I put in for golf and football and all that kind of stuff. But definitely wanted to mention and give OG and Wiley and May on those guys a shout out. So go listen to their pods, read OG's article on our site, and you get all the info you need out of that, for sure, and enjoy it. It's my deal on Saturday. I do want to talk about something that we are very versed in, the NFL draft. What overall, just what was your initial reactions, whether it involved Chargers or Cowboys or not? Was there any just stunning surprise to you? Anything you thought after you digested it for 2 or 3 days that, hindsight, that's probably a really good pick. I didn't realize. Anything, top 2 or 3 things that stood out to you outside of, I know we'll talk Cowboys and Chargers in depth, but, anything at all from the onset that surprised you at all, or who you thought had a really good draft that'll benefit them this year?
Outside of the Chargers specifically for me, I'm just enamored with the AFC East, because I think every team in that division made great moves over the weekend, including the Patriots, considering where they were drafting. I'm no college football expert, but I swear to you, I wish those late games or something they were on here, that Arizona State, that guy could not be covered. No. He'll high point everything. He doesn't need separation. If Brady throws it accurate, he's going to catch it. And on those random early week, like Vandy games, they're wearing all black and it's a dark out or whatever they do there. I noticed that corner. That corner popped off the TV to me multiple times watching Vanderbilt football. I'm no scout. Sometimes those great college players aren't great. Even that Ninkovich guy, if he goes to any other team, you're like, I don't know. He goes there, you're like, oh my God, they're probably going to use him so effectively. It's so annoying. Thought the Bills had a good draft at the top, getting Oliver. Obviously, the Jets were in a great position. And, yeah, the Rosen trade seems like a no-brainer for the Dolphins. It's so cool to me that all 3 of those quarterbacks are in the same division, and now it's like that great quarterback class of last year all sort of going to be the race to knock off Brady. Obviously, the Dolphins probably won't, and I'm not saying Brady's getting knocked off this year, but, I don't know. At some point, Darnold or Allen are probably going to be the quarterbacks to win that division. Sooner than later, too. I'm not afraid to say, but I'm not going there this year because that's just not, I'm not doing that. I'm not dumb enough to do that. I do worry, though, for the Dolphins that if Rosen is, good but not great, then he wins them, 6 games, and they might lose their chance at getting, into this real group of guys for next year. And in the end, they sort of stay in that because they are doing a great job moving around the board, getting those picks. So I guess it would be the Dolphins, and not to throw, because I actually liked the Daniel Jones as a player. I don't know if he'd be my 6th overall pick, but when I watched him, I saw his body. I don't know, he impressed me. But I think it's an epic miscalculation by the Giants because I'm so excited about what the Bills and Jets have and what they were able to do with these last 2 drafts, being dominated by quarterbacks and defensive linemen. And the Giants just completely screwed. This Daniel Jones is not better than Josh Allen. I'm convinced he's not better than Sam Darnold. But I'm very confident he's not better than Josh Allen, in my opinion. And I like him. I actually would have loved for him to sit behind Phillip for a couple of years instead of Eli.
I think the hard part there is that the whole story, right? If you just draft him at 6, you're like, maybe it's a reach. But here, the whole story comes together is that they had the pick at 17, And then the other side is they basically passed on Darnold last year, when they could have had him, even though Saquon's great. And now they take another quarterback the year after, and you're like, well, this just doesn't all make sense when you digest it.
It doesn't make sense at all, Gup. And Gettleman, he's an easy target, but it's of his own doing. All you got to do as an NFL GM is get to that fucking podium and say, he's my guy. I believe he's a franchise quarterback. 6'17" doesn't mean anything. There's no way to argue it. But he's given anecdotes about what that dude at the pastry shop said to him. Get the fuck out of here. You just all you got to do is say he to me is a franchise NFL superstar quarterback, and there's nothing you could say because we all know, like, if that's how you feel, then it's like, I don't know, just like the Bears getting Trubisky or backfired with the Jags. Like, if that's how you feel, then there's nothing he's worth 6 overall in a landslide.
Well, I mean, I told about it.
But to like go out and twist in the wind after you pick it. And like you said, they just screwed up such a great opportunity. Every great championship team has two things. They have the quarterback, and they all have a stud great defensive lineman. Maybe you could give me Patriot examples, but they're almost like the outlier in everything. That's great.
Yeah, to your point, 2 years ago, the Chiefs, when everybody drafted Mahomes, people thought, and they moved up for it, most people thought that was a mistake. But they owned it, right? They said, this is our fucking guy. This is our Brett Favre-ish type. And he loves that style quarterback, and he's going to be our guy. And there was no questions, right? They're like, all right, if he turns out, now he's, now it looks like it was a fucking steal, at 10 when they got him. So that I agree with that point. The only point that just major to me is they had another number one that I think Daniel probably would have fell to him at 7. Better odds than not that he still falls there. And that was the head scratcher, was why do that if you're gonna do that there? I like the Jets draft. I thought some of the picks, especially being a young developing team, were risky picks with the background and the I don't want to say head cases, but let's say not Patriot style picks. Like now they got some talent, but will they all jive? It's a young team, right? They have to jive in the locker room. They're developing together, and you don't need prima donnas or me guys in that kind of locker room. I'm not saying they are, so Tim, don't come after me if you watch this, but I like the Jets, right? I don't mind them at all, and I think they'll compete, but I did question some of the people they went after. The Redskins draft, that's kind of my area, obviously being a Cowboys fan, but for the Dallas not having a first-round pick, I don't think it could have went better for the guys that our opponents selected. I think the Eagles are the team to beat still, but
yeah.
I'm not worried about what the Redskins did there.
The Giants, though, they're in such a world of hurt, Gup, and maybe they can all laugh in a couple years. But just the mental anguish of now you pass on Darnold and he doesn't leave New York. I mean, he's in New York. If he's great, he's in New York forever. And the thing with Haskins, I don't know who's good. I don't know who's going to be better. But it's just such like oh, man. Because now it'll be Haskins. If Haskins is good, the majority of I'm not even giving fans credit for knowing more than even Gettleman, although it sucks when you have a GM at this point like Gettleman, when you kind of feel like you do know more than or more sane than. I'm sure you have your moments like that, maybe with Jerry and Steven running it. I'm lucky that I actually really trust the Chargers GM, so I don't at this point overread too much into anything. But yeah, now so if Haskins is good, it's going to be this whole thing. It's going to be in their face forever, Haskins and Darnold. So we'll see. Those were, I guess, my initial big takeaways. I'm also rooting against. I don't want to say it actually.
Well, you're to your point. So the Giants, that goes back to that whole story. Now, like you said, Darnold's in the city with them forever, and now if Haskins works out, he's in the damn division with them for whatever year. Now, Haskins could bomb Daniel, and I love. Don't get me wrong, I love Daniel because he won me a shit ton of money at Duke, a lot, because he was undervalued at the books, and I think Adon was another guy that would bet Duke a lot like me. I've been betting Duke for several years now, but very underrated on the books. And then he was so good of a talent that I literally probably bet them 80% of their games this year and did well. So
it goes both ways. because they did well, but then like someone points out to me, then they lose like 52-0 to Wake Forest. How good could he be? Like, I don't know, man. Like shit happens. But,
yeah, if he's a second round pick, I think it's a steal, right? I just don't know if he fits that top 10 quarterback, but we'll be, I can't judge him yet. We'll let it play out, but the spot could be very bad for the Giants in 2 years if the Jets are on top of the East and the Redskins are rolling with Haskins and they're like, they got Saquon. They didn't even have Saquon at that time. He may be gone somewhere else because he's tired of the shit and didn't want to sign there. But what? We can get to our teams. What stood out to you? Were you pleased? Were you happy? Did you like the Chargers draft? Anything you hated? And how do you think the year plays out for them?
No, I certainly didn't hate anything. I thought the board fell to us greatly. We took two players that Pro Football Focus absolutely loves, and I love Pro Football Focus. Jerry Tillery, nose tackle out of Notre Dame. I don't know. A lot of people seem high on him. And, for picking as deep as we were, I think the board sort of fell because it's a need. I think we only have like 2 or 3 guys signed, which still makes me think we might sign Sue, who's still out there. Maybe I hope he has a girlfriend. He's got some biddies in LA that doesn't want to leave behind, but the Rams can't afford him anymore. And we're looking because imagine if we got Sue with our like ability to put edge pressure. Man, that'd be special. So that's still like my like wet dream off-season scenario. And Nasir Adderley, not going to lie, I don't know a ton about him, but I saw him mocked to us a ton in the first round. So I was certainly thrilled when he still fell to us in the second round. By all accounts, is the perfect complement to Derwin James. He can be that last line of defense type player because Jaleel, a guy who had that role for us last year, like when I saw Derwin at the line and he created havoc, a part of me is like, oh my God, I don't trust Jaleel to sort of cover, if Derwin can't make his play. But now I'm being told like Derwin can freelance even more because I should be able to trust this guy. So I was pretty fired about that. They took a developmental left tackle in the third round from Division II. This guy's just like a monster. So, I don't know, a bit of a project player, but if it works out, it works out. And the rest pretty interesting. They took that Easton Stick. And there have been a lot of articles, Gup, that they might have some Taysom Hill type wrinkles in the Chargers offense next year with this guy. So we'll see. But all in all, I think it's the draft. It's hard to tell, but we've got a great track record with these draft picks, especially in the first round. The Chargers are one of only 3 teams in the league, Gup, that have now gone 5 straight first round picks, giving the team 5th-year options. Which means, that things have gone well. Not all of them have been superstars, but I think we overrate that. A guy comes in, he's a starter, you draft him like 24th overall, he's on your team for 6 years. I think in the end that was a pretty good draft pick. So,
how many years does Phillips have left in your mind? I mean, they got to be thinking this is the window they have to capitalize.
Yeah.
When you're talking about Sue, if they can get him, they got to go. We got to win with Phillips now, right?
Yeah, that's part of it. They got to win with Phillips. We're going into a new stadium next year. They sort of played such an ugly scam on the Rams, which is kind of funny. In that the money the Chargers have to give to the Rams, Gup, is the PSL licenses.
Right.
I'm sure Cowboys. They get you at the Gouge for those. But the Chargers made their PSLs like $200. So, and the Rams ones are like thousands.
Sure.
So if you're just like a neutral football fan in LA and you want to have season's tickets, I don't know, come see AFC games instead of NFC games. But yeah, sure. So they've really tried to pull a fast one there because that's the money the Chargers have to pay the Rams was PSL money. Nonetheless, Phillips said he's got 1 more year on his deal. I think that's going to get redone, just sort of like Ben Roethlisberger's a couple weeks ago. Maybe it'll probably be the exact same contract, I would expect, same draft class. It'd be hard to say, right. While I think Phillips might be, better at this moment in time, I don't think he technically deserves more money than Roethlisberger, so I think that'll be pretty equal. He's like, all he has said is that he will play the first year in the new stadium. So that's at least this year and next, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, that was part of it. A lot of people thought we might take a quarterback, maybe like in the late the first, but there was that thing, we got this window. We got to sort of deal with that now when we get to it. And at this point, every chip we have in the organization resource probably needs to be put in the middle of the table to try to win. I'm going to say something that does. I think what happened in Kansas City is disgusting, and I would rather there be a 3-year-old boy that doesn't fear for his life from his father. I'd rather Tariq Hill not have done any of that. So I'm not saying this as I condone anything what happened, but that's a pretty, I don't know. There's just a lot of bad juju going on in Kansas City right now. So things could be shaping up. They won 12 games last year, Gup. The schedule isn't the easiest in the league, but by no one's calling it a difficult one. It could be a really good team. I don't know. You look at like the roster, you stare it down, you're like, oh, this could be a really good team. They got real demoralized. I mean, that game versus New England stuck around for a while. It wasn't just a loss. It was a total destruction. Nobody played well. No one kept their composure. So that's concerning. You know, Phillips still has things to prove in the biggest games. So it's not just like we'll get to them and I'll feel fine. But we went 12. Like we're making great progression. You know, from that 8-8 to the 12-4 and winning the playoff game. Next year, you know, I can only hope for more. And in the AFC, blind to the Patriots, I'll say the Patriots. The team that would scare me the most would be the Indianapolis Colts, and we play them week 1. So that should be a fun little game.
I think the most besides you getting maybe as bad of an Ander curse in April as you could get for the Chargers.
I try not.
I think it sets up well for him. Cowboys had a typical solid Cowboys draft. I mean, I put it right there as for the last 5 years, the draft people they've had has been up there with the top of the league. I love Michael Jackson, the corner. Connor McGovern's going to be a great guard. He'll be fine. Tristan Hill is a great DT, good rotational guy. Joe Jackson, I think, will be fine. I'm interested. I think I heard Cowherd talking about this as well. Is I was interested to see them go not one but 2 running backs, and one fairly early. You know, Pollard. Neither of these guys are what I would say, you know, take over for Zeke, but I was shocked with the needs that they needed that they didn't. They did that unless they think because of the big money they paid up front to the linemen, they're going to have to pay Jalen. You know, and at some point the quarterback, you know, they can't keep them all, right? We know that. And so is Zeke the guy they just say we can get a running back, right? We'll find one. We know how good Zeke is. So it's definitely a touch and go deal. I'm interested this year. It's not going to matter, but I'm interested to see how that develops over the next 12 months as a Cowboy fan. But I think the Eagles are a team to beat in the East. Hell, they did great last year and was on the crippled report all year. So I think they can do well. And I'm not a big Eagles guy, obviously. I mean, I can't stand them, but I respect the game, and I expect them to be a 10-11 win season. I think the Giants
call it like you see it.
Yeah, they're solid. They're the team we have to, you know, split with at worst and then try to survive elsewhere. I think the Giants and Redskins are going to be lucky to both win 4 or 5 games at most. So nothing there. I don't know about the Saints. I don't know if they can keep what they had going.
The Saints, they have the hardest first month of the season. They're coming off 2 straight crushing, demoralizing playoff exits from the Viking play 2 years ago to the no call last year. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see what happens with them. I got no issues. I actually really like the first Cowboy pick. The running back that they drafted though, isn't he the Memphis running back? Like that guy's a slasher too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so, you know, I don't know.
Change the pace.
Yeah, but in 2019, you just need, like, I don't know. I don't underrate the importance of, like, an Eckler behind your workhorse.
Sure, 100%. Yeah, you saw that last year when Gordon went out, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, when Gordon went out, Eckler wasn't, very good. But just that ability to, like, even line them both up and, you just slash it or who knows. And I like, the internet mob, Gup, didn't really make much sense of that trade last year, but not only the success Amari has, but you saw how that wide receiver draft board broke this year, and it's like we all gotta say like our apologies for that. because they obviously knew what their scouts were telling them, that next year's draft, like, you're not getting a receiver in the first round of the next year's draft.
Right.
Probably not as good as Amari. Now you got Amari. You saw what he did in like the shortened schedule. It's so hard to make an impact like in the NFL. That's why like for many years we really didn't see trades like mid-season. So exactly. Amari gets a full camp. Like, yeah. So I got, it's Eagles, it's Cowboys. You put a gun to my head today. I do like a healthy Eagles team. I think they are better positioned probably, but I'm expecting the Cowboys to be pretty good. And on a separate note, I think it's a slam dunk to me in any pool. Zeke Elliott should be the first fantasy pick.
Yeah, I agree there. And the Rams, I'm not sold that they're going to come back and be done. Their last half of the season struggled. Obviously, we saw that. Bears, they're in the mix. I mean, they got a great D, and they can carry you. It carried them last year, and that quarterback, he's another year under his belt, get a little more experience. A team I'm on the watch for, if everything can come back together for him, is the 49ers, right? I think could get to a wild card for them is great. They got great talent. Well, obviously, the coach is solid. Can he get healthy at QB? We'll see. I like how that organization is going. I think they'll be in play for the next 3 or 4 years, but I'm interested to kind of see this season, how it shakes out. I'm not, as much as I love football, I struggle with, I know best balls are rolling and, fantasy talk, and it's just a life breathing thing that I try to take a break from it so I enjoy it when it's here. And I know that's hard to do.
I'm with you. Like, I'll tell you, I don't know, but like, so I just had such a good vibe about the Chargers that I've been getting like early adrenaline rushes this year. But yes, I do really try to like shut it off. Me and my buddies are psychopaths. We're just in, it's like my same like 10 buddies since like high school or league. On the NFL draft night is when my buddies like to do our draft lottery. So like now we already know our picks, and I always beg them. I'm like, I don't want to know the pick. I don't want to think about it. And the couple guys that are crazy about it, like, they'll text you up like, who you think? I'm like, do not, if you message me before like the 1st of August, I will not give you any insight into anything. I will not do anything. So they know, stay away from me. I don't like thinking about it till August, but I'm in the Mayo orbit, and let's not, joke to people who do it. Like, it's almost on. Like, we are literally a month from being in like fantasy football season.
Sure. I mean, there'll be, if you're not once the NHL, NBA diehards kind of die down with the playoffs, and if you're not a golf kind of guy, you really start focusing on fantasy and betting and, the super contest, you start registering for stuff like that.
Great news about the super contest. To my understanding, Gup, people are now going to be able, Jay Cornegie said that people are now going to be able to enter from New Jersey.
Correct. So I talked to Jay when I was there in November, and that was on the horizon. He wouldn't commit to it, but because of the jurisdictions, it's actually going to be ran as 2 separate pools. So New Jersey will have, they wouldn't allow them to combine it across state lines. Yeah. But for you can get to Jersey fairly quick, but yeah, the bigger deal is, at least for me, I've had a long-term proxy, which, he's signed on with us we're going to promote him all summer and all year long. Great guy, takes care of us in Vegas. For me,
what a fucking gig, the proxy gig, man.
Oh yeah. He's awesome. He's a little nervous about the Jersey deal, because he's wondering how many guys will not fly to Vegas because he's got a lot of Northeast guys, a lot of Washington, New York guys that fly in, but with it being 2 separate pools, it'll be one or the other. One will be like, if you get to like, if it's mid-July, August, and that other one doesn't look as big in Jersey, I mean, I may fly up there and put it in if I can get a proxy, just because if it's less the biggest downside, and I've even said about our own stuff that we run, is the downside in the Vegas one now has gotten so damn big, and we talked about it before. I mean, you used to be able to cash at, low 60% type stuff, even high 50s. I think when Fezzik won it, which is one of OG's boys, I mean, he was like 59
yes. And OG gave me a bit of tutorial because I'll be hooking up with OG on the reg because I end up in that area a lot because I got family there. So at least once a year, and I met up with him and you at the Honda. And then last year when I was there, we did an NFL Sunday hangout together, which is fantastic. And I'll do it again next year, I don't doubt. But yeah, no, he was breaking it down, like the cashing percentages in those things. It's insane. Almost like you should not like disrespect anybody, but it's gotten to the point where like to pull a number there, it's like become like a luck sack thing. Like,
I mean, even on our own face, the one and done's like that now, right?
Yeah, and I don't say that like to knock the one and done.
No,
I love it. I'll be in it next year, but it's like, it's gotten so big that the number that wins it will seem like unfathomable. Right. It's not going to be like when the golf tournament winner, I'm just thinking about like, the Bells was like 6 under, 7 under, and every guy at the week was like, man, if I just knew like to hold on and shoot 1.5 under a day, like I'd have been in it on Sunday. Like, right. No, that's not possible. Your one and done, it's and to your credit, is massive. But with that comes like the winner is going to be on a heater that they didn't even think was possible.
And I asked Jay. I said, "Hey, we've had internal talks about do we just start capping the entries and creating multiple one and done pools so that people feel it's still has a still great pool and pot and all that, but they still have a chance." And Jay said 100%. That's how he would like it to go. He's just battling. There's internal struggles there's also a huge allure when you have this big, their deals for millions. So he can put out
the publicity, right. Get like mainstream media, not just like gambling degenerate vision fucking like
100%.
You get like real fucking media. That shit. Like the barista fucking winning 2 years ago. Like People Magazine read a blurb about it. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, it was huge. What does, to flip to kind of our core and how we started talking about this, and I've had several people comment over the last month since we had it, but enjoyed the wrestling talk, and people were, for them, it was, Tiger-esque of taking you back to the old school of, moments of, I can close my eyes and call the whole Hogan Warrior match at WrestleMania 6 and, Bass at the Beach in 95 when Hogan showed. I mean, I know all these moments. I know more wrestling moments outside of OU football than probably anything. Like, I know where I was. I know this. I know everything that happened about so many moments. With we both took that decade off-ish around, mid 2000 on. But what, I had a guy ask, he said, is there anybody today that you think can carry the company like The Rock did, Austin, Hogan early, Taker, call it Ric Flair, Sting, all these greats, Goldberg at his time. They said, is there anybody that you think can carry the industry now that you see on the roster, was part one of the question. And then the other was, what are our thoughts on the AEW and what it's coming about, and Jim Ross going there, and can someone finally be a WCW type competitor at WWE? I'll get your take and then I'll chime in.
The first question, that's hard. I don't know. Like, it's so hard to predict like that type of rocket ship. Obviously Cena has, caught his, but I don't know. I don't have I don't see it, but but history tells us there's always going to be that like next person, to really, captivate.
I mean, it's kind of like, to put it in sports terms, LeBron only comes out every so often. A Steph Curry, a transitional player, changes the game. That stuff is a similar in wrestling. And I know people think, or they know it's scripted or whatever you want to call it, but that charisma and stuff doesn't come around every day, right? It's just not, you just don't have that walking in, or you'd have 10 Michael Jordans or whatever. You only have so many of that elite, status type guys. There's some that I could picture in a perfect scenario. I actually think, which kind of, I was glad about the question, and I've done a lot of research in the last couple of days on the AEW, and obviously once Jim Ross committed, I obviously wanted to listen and understand, just because I have such respect for him, and I listened to his pod. His pod that came out today with the new one with Conrad. It was fantastic, going back from the WCW days to why he transferred in, and the stories he tell. I'm like a 3-year-old, on the couch listening.
I gotta listen to that because I love Conrad. Yeah, I'm gonna make time.
Yeah, this was their debut of their new pod, and it was fantastic. And the intro is Boomer Sooner, so fuck, he had me hooked from the start. I got a little. I mean, I'm walking in the gym, and now I'm like, fuck, I'm ready to throw some weight. But I think it will take something. I mean, we know this. When you're a monopoly or there's no one else in your market, you can get complacent, right? You cannot, because you're like, well, where else are they going to go? They either watch this or they don't. Blah blah blah. But the ratings have continued to struggle. WrestleMania was very solid. I'll get your thoughts in a second. Way too fucking long. Everybody has said that. I don't know why Vince doesn't fucking get that. We don't like. When I went to WrestleMania in Dallas, I was like, this is miserable. It was electric. Stone Cold was there. The Rock was there. It was as good of and it was WrestleMania 30. I mean, it was, but fuck, you're there forever. And you're like, by the end,
some serious arrogance on the part of Vince, because we do these, someone like, you would never go to a movie that long. You would never go to take your kid to a circus that long. No one would ever do anything that long. So yeah, it's kind of embarrassing, the time frame of.
I do think so. It's the if people don't know, it's the Chargers owner, not the Chargers, sorry, the Jags owners that are fronting this AEW. Cody Rhodes.
This guy owns like an EPL team too, so he's like, this is deeper. People say he's got more money than Vince.
Yeah, he's got what it's going to take though is that he's got to get on mainstream, right? He's got to get on the network to be a weekly show. It just doesn't succeed. It's why UFC struggles so much now they're on ESPN, they're picking up, they got some of that. But when they were just basically, you just buy the pay-per-view and watch it, eventually people want to know. If you're a diehard wrestling fan, you want to be bought into the storyline and watch it develop. And so these off brands that have tried to compete with WWE, they couldn't get on those networks. And they just die, right? That's what made WWE versus WCW and the Monday Night, wars was the battles, the back and forth, and the competition and all-time ratings. So I think if AEW can come to fruition and get the financial back, get on the network, it'll actually enhance the WWE product, which is what I want. Yeah,
I would agree. I'm rooting for both, and I want AEW to be great. I don't think if AEW gets on TV that they would go head-to-head with WWE.
I could see that, right? I don't mind if they're Tuesday night or something.
I just can't picture that at this point. Because even Cody, they made that comment, Gup. Because how at WrestleMania, every indie promotion does a show.
Yeah.
Like that weekend, they take advantage of the crowd. And Cody said, no, we're not. It was no, that's not going to be our thing. That's their weekend. We're going to do our thing. There may be times, might change that, but I'm rooting for them. They're putting a card together that seems pretty exciting. I don't know if you saw that Dean Ambrose thing that's pretty cryptic, but he's going back to being called what he was called before. I'm not going to pretend I watched him wrestling before he was in the WWE. I'm not, watching Japan or some of the other stuff, but I'm going to give AEW a go. I want to see them succeed, and you said it best. They do well. It will just make the WWE do better. I don't think anybody doubts that. So that's exciting.
Well, and the biggest downgrade or the biggest fault of WWE was its success, in the sense that when you got a guy like The Rock that can leave and make millions upon millions in the mainstream, Vince can't compete with that, right? He's gonna let him go. There's nothing he can do. And, because if Rock was still wrestling, and God knows he could do it with his physical ability, the last 10 years would have been amazing in the WWE, just because you had that. It would have fed off each other, right? Triple H, right? I mean, there would have been stuff there for it to do, and you don't need many of those guys to carry it. But now you have to develop your characters, and I think they try to rush quicker because call it the millennial style of watchers. I think they feel they have to rush. So people don't want to watch a storyline for 3 months. But I think if you're a wrestling diehard, you do want to see that. You want to see Finn Balor and AJ Styles and AJ and now they're putting them in the pay-per-view already in the main event. I thought they would develop that story. Maybe they still will, right? I don't know, but
And I'm like, yeah, because we're from that age where there were 4 pay-per-views a year, so the story took that long, and that's what we don't mind. And you could develop a story for 3 months. They don't have to wrestle. You can put them in tag matches or something, like they can just sort of face off each other, but they don't have to technically like wrestle once, or maybe they do wrestle. I don't know. So yes, I am a story guy. Do I watch wrestling? Obviously. But what got me into it as a kid was more like the storyline drama, and like even as I got older, the soap opera aspect of it, whether it was like the in-company storylines or the soap opera drama that was WCW versus WWE.
Sure.
That had its own, natural competitive drama. So that was always my thing. I would take like a good story over like a 5-star storytelling arc over 3-4 months than I would the 30-minute like 5-star match. I'm more entertained by the first. Not to say I don't enjoy the second, but I am at my core into the first part of it.
Well, and, you had, and like you said on our last pod, maybe if we're watching it through the eyes of an 8-year-old, they do see it and we don't because of just who we are. But I that's what I remember about the wrestling was, like the Dungeon of Doom in WCW. I mean, I remember being scared of that shit, or Earthquake hurting Hulk Hogan. I'm like, fuck, is he really hurt? And the Marty Jannetty, crossover, Shawn Michaels deal. Obviously the NWO was its own deal, and DX and Austin coming out doing God knows what at any time. And that expect the unexpected attitude always kept you on your toes, where now you watch and sometimes you're like, you're not surprised about anything. There's the creativity's down some. And I hope whatever AEW can do can bolster WWE's, motive and what they're trying to develop, so that, like you said, I think it breeds competition. And that's just where I come from. In football, when I played, if someone brought in someone better than me, then I'm going to work that much harder to keep my position. And I think that's in any way life, anybody that gets hired new, I think quarterbacks think that way in the NFL. I mean, if even if the Chargers would have drafted a hot rookie for whatever reason, Phillips is the type of guy, and him better than me, that his competition would be like, I'm fine with that. I just got to be better and be ready. Right. And when it's his time, it's his time, but I'm going to show up. And guys that compete, and you're right, Vince is egotistical. We know he doesn't think he's ever going to lose. But if he starts getting pushed and you get on mainstream and your ratings are outdoing his, he's going to have to make changes and get shit going. And I believe in JR too. I think JR is one of the better wrestling minds out there.
And I don't know if it came up in our last one, but you cannot, whatever they're paying JR, it probably isn't enough. Because just like Mean Gene, like just seeing him gave like instant credibility
100%
to the brand, like the production, the who's talking to you. It's just instant credibility to the wrestling fan that JR is in it. So like I said, like sort of, I don't think we appreciated like even as much as, Hogan and Savage and Hall and Nash and all that. Like to me, Gene going over there and he like as important as any of the other guys. Made it felt like, the other show, or, just felt big. Oh, geez, they're like, this is big time. Jim Ross equals big time to me and to wrestling fans. So,
I mean, I'm
excited. I want to support these guys. I hope they do it. I hope they kill it. I really do.
I mean, you go back to even the Undertaker Mankind match, if it still was awesome, don't get me wrong, but if JR isn't calling that match, it's not as all-time epic as it was with him calling it. No, I mean, there's no question about it. So there's that edge of the whole entire broadcast that he brings that's unmatched in the industry. So I'm looking forward to that part. I don't want to keep everybody long. I promise we'd keep it short. Before we wrap it up, so the final two things is just who do you think pulls this away? Does Rory hang on this week? And then not betting odds, no value, no nothing. Who wins the PGA Championship? So who wraps it up this week, and then who follows up in 2 weeks?
It's easy to say, so I'll say Rory wins. But this is also one of those tournaments where if the leaders don't get too far away, everyone gets really bunched up. So that can be a wild card. But Rory is currently in the best form of golf we've seen him in a couple years, and he's currently gets to spend the weekend on his favorite course in America. So that's probably a dangerous combination. No odds, one pick, gun to the head, bring it home. Dustin Johnson, Wanamaker.
Oof. Rory, we know the Sunday deal and all that, and you know someone's going to make a run. I looked at the leaderboard earlier when I was starting my showdown research right before we hopped on, and the problem with Rory leading isn't that he's leading. Is I look down the list, I'm like, is Patrick Reed going to keep it up for 4 days? He could, but I'm not going to bet against Rory on that. Is Jason Day? Jason Day can. I faded him this week. I didn't think he'd go back to back. He obviously loves this place. He plays it well. He can be right there. Killer Keith there. I definitely had some of him. I didn't do him at DraftKings because I saw him being chalked, but he's proven he loves Bermuda fast. Casey's there. So you got guys 3 or 4 back. And like you said, as long as
even Finau to me, like you said, he rallied to finish. Like he can go a 7 under round and just put himself right in there.
Yeah, I mean, Matsu, Phil, they can all go deep and put themselves in there. To your point, and I agree, is that the guy leading can pull away. He's the type of talent that could go tomorrow and shoot 66 and have a 4-shot lead in the weekend type of deal. So I wouldn't bet against it by any means. It also, I assume it'll have some good value. I haven't looked at the outrights. There may be a couple live bets. When you have an elite gap there, I kind of hedge people to say, hey, don't get too crazy with these. A number looks real good, but the reason why is because you have to sit there and go, can he come back and beat one of the top 3 guys in the world right now? And that,
Even I don't. Who ended up winning Valspar again? Just quickly remind me.
Casey.
Yeah, Casey.
Yeah,
but because of DJ's presence there, like even those good golfers that were a couple strokes back, everyone's odds got ballooned. Just because sort of like when those guys are there, it's like, I don't know how they know.
Oh, yeah, with you're talking about RBC, right? Heritage?
No, okay, so maybe it was Heritage then. Yeah, sorry.
CT Pan wins it, which was a great play if you took it, because you get those values and people can make runs, no doubt. And RBC is a place where you see guys come back, so that was definitely worth it. And you can see that here. Gun to my head, nothing matters, but just who wins it. I think the heater continues, and I think Rory actually wins this week, and I think Rory will win the PGA. I think I said this on the pod Monday. I think I have a lot of respect for him when he talks, and if you listen to him he's in a great place right now too. You can tell
he
is, and I think watching Tiger not only win the Tour Championship, but what as close as I think. Like I said earlier, this goes back to you draft a quarterback and you guys like him watching Tiger. I think it made him focus and go, if this fucking dude can do it with a crippled back and bad history and all that, like I'm still in my prime. He's still 30, right? And he goes, I can win this shit. Get your shit together. Because I've talked to several guys in the industry. One of them played on the tour. You know him as well as I do. Good friend of ours. Without a doubt, pound for pound, when he says right now, who's the best of the best when they're playing at their peak, 9 out of 10 guys I talk to will say Rory is the best talent when they're all at their peak. And DJ, who's the guy you just picked, is slightly behind them, number 2, when they're playing at their best. Those are the 1 and 2.
I'll die on that hill. You can throw me all the other names you want. If you're telling me they have their A-plus game, those are the 2 best golfers with their best game. Those are the 2 best golfers to me on the planet. No disrespect to JT or Rose.
No, they're all
whatever. But no, those 2 guys, it's nothing. There's nothing. I mean, they literally have 8 feet for birdie all week when they're playing. Like that's literally, you just want them to stay patient because it's just 4 days of like 12-foot looks.
100%
for red scores.
Jeffrey, I enjoyed it. This is fun to me. It's exciting. My wife sees how excited I am when I talk to her about even doing this kind of pod because I get to I research and look up a little bit, but I get to relax and just talk about things I enjoy talking about with a guy I like being in front of. Hopefully stay tuned. We're going to kind of plan out a more definite schedule here in the next couple of weeks after we get through this next major, so you guys can know when to tune in. Appreciate the support. Make sure you follow, Jeff on Twitter. Pat, a big, supporter of us as well. We love Pat. He does so much for our brand, and we, had Moose out this weekend at Blue Jack. So nothing but high words from Moose about Pat. I can't wait to finally meet Pat in person. I hope we can plan that this year, but really respect the guy. Have the utmost respect for him, and he always treats us well. And I know you know that. Respect you as well. You help our everybody in our group that's met you has high respect for you. So thank you for coming on again. Look forward to the next one. Hopefully you guys have a great, PGA Masters week. I mean, major week. It'll be a grind as usual, but I'm looking forward to it. And we'll see you guys. I'll have Showdown later out. If you're waiting on that, give me a little bit, and then hopefully we have a good weekend of golf this weekend. And I hope you get to play some with some warm weather down there.
Yeah, I'm hoping this weekend I'll get out. I don't want. I'm going to be bad at the conversion, but so I could tell you what the Celsius number is, but I'll just leave it alone. It's supposed to be
As long as it's sunny and warm, you can get out there.
yeah.
All right,
Awesome.
everybody, have a good night, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. I don't want to fuck up the live shit going on. All good? Yeah. All right. Hey, man, appreciate it. I'm going to